Good morning, 20 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is talkSPORT Breakfast. I'm Jeff Stelling. The Chelsea and Republic of Ireland legend Tony Cascarino is alongside me and still in the studio with Cas Nyes, a three-time Premier League winner, turned promotion specialist as a manager, Steve Bruce. And Steve, you were just telling us a story about the genius of Sir Alex Ferguson.
Well, you know, we're talking about Chelsea in the 4-0 one. He said all week to us that, look, if we score first, we'll win 4 or 5. And I've told this story many, many times. And 4 or 5 in a cup final, that doesn't really happen no matter who you're playing against, you know. And the longer the week went on, remember, score first, we'll win 4 or 5. So towards the end of the week, I'm asking him, thinking, boss, where do you get that from? He said, well, you know what'll happen, don't you? He said, as soon as they go 1-0 down, Glenn, who's been a wonderful, wonderful player, will bring himself on and open the game up. And then he won't be able to deal with our midfield of Ince and Keane, and they'll rampage through and we'll win 4 or 5. So 60 minutes, we score. On comes Glenn, who I believe is one of the great players of our time. And on he comes, and 65 minutes, it's 2-0. 70 minutes, it's 3-0. 75, 78 minutes, it's 4-0. And I'm going to collect the cup after that, you know. And it's a great feeling when you think, God, as a kid, these moments, you know, you're going to go and lift the FA Cup and all the rest of it. And then I'm thinking, after the game, this fella a genius, Sir Alex. Has he read the script, have known what's going on? What gives you a little bit insight to the way he thought and the way he talks about things, because he was right. Incredible.
Brilliant.
Got a Villa fan here saying thanks Steve for signing John McGinn, an absolute bargain.
Absolute bargain, yeah, he was. He was really, really, from the first 30 seconds that he entered the pitch for Aston Villa, he became a bit of a cult hero all of a sudden. He's smashed into a challenge and drove forward the way he can and hit it in his shot from about 2 minutes and had all the ingredients of being a top player. And how we got him from the grass.
What did you pay for him?
It was £2 million, but we didn't have £2 million, so we had to stall it at the time. We had to stall it because we didn't have £2 million, and all along we have to compete with Celtic. And I don't know if you know, but John McGinn's, I think, granddad was chairman of Celtic. So all the stories were telling me that he was going to Celtic, but I heard that his dad played golf, so I thought, I'm going to try and get his dad down and give us a little bit of stalling time. And we got him to the Belfry, got the pro to play against him on the Belfry, which gave me another 4 or 5 hours to try and rustle together the £2 million because we didn't have it at the time. But yeah, I'm absolutely pleased for him because he's turned into a really, really top player, the kid.
Yeah. I mean, so you've managed over 1,000 games. Is that one of the biggest ways in which the game has changed from a management point of view, you know, in terms of, you know, how you sign players and who has the responsibility of that?
Well, I remember Neil Lennon's son telling me about the best player in Scotland is John McGinn. In Portugal, we were in the cheeky pub in the restaurant.
Well, in Kinta,
in Kinta, yeah. And tell him, and he was at Hibs at the time, Lenny.
Yeah.
And so I got straight onto it on the phone. And we need to watch this McGinn and find out about McGinn. I need to find everything I can because I've just been told he's the best young player in Scotland. So we went to work on it, and you know, back in the day, the manager used to put the scouting department together.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays you become head coach, and who is actually responsible for signing the player. It's great when you're in alignment and the system works. That you know in Newcastle with Steve Nixon, who's been the chief scout up there for a long, long time. It worked because we worked together with it, and the system can work because you can become the head coach. But I do believe that side of the game, recruitment, is key. And so often we see it where it hasn't gone so well, but it's a huge, huge part of the game and still is today, recruitment.
Well, I remember, was it Cox who was in recruitment at Newcastle, Brucey? What was his name? Willie Cox. Oh, there was a guy at Newcastle phoned me when I was in France about we played PSG, and he asked me about David Ginola, and I thought it was a really random call.
Really?
And I said, well, first of all, you can't believe how big he is, because he's a winger that he's like 6'1", 6'2", and I said he's really well built. You can't knock him off the ball, you know. And we're having this conversation. I can't remember the guy's name. He was well known.
It's obviously before
before your time. But it's
yeah.
amazing. What I'm trying to get to is that type of conversation would happen very, very often.
Yeah, all the time you'd find out, and of course, listen, everybody's now talking about analysts and all the rest of it, and they're all doing everything by computer these days to pass completion and XG and all of it that goes. The one thing that a computer can't tell you is what's his character like, and what do we know about him, and what's his family like, and what does he do in the dark. All of these things is what you used to go to work on, to go and sign a player and do your homework and find out that you know everything about him. Because I always think that when I was managing a club, that if I was managing the club's money, that it was my money, and Cass, I don't like to spend it very often.
Look, we better touch on Newcastle, because it's your dream job.
Yeah.
How difficult did it become? Can you put it into words?
Can I say here? Look, I absolutely adored the job. I loved going to work on it, even though it was in COVID. It was difficult, and look, I just think I was the victim. It's a bit like when I managed Sunderland. I said in 10 years' time they'll look back and think, that fella did an all right job. Me remit was, we'd gone in after Rafa, who'd finished 12th. We'd lost Mitrovic, and we'd lost the other centre forward who went to Leicester, and we'd lost the two strikers. So the remit was, I've got to just keep Newcastle. And look, we weren't a great watch. I understand that too. And I do believe a Newcastle team, of why Newcastle have enjoyed under Eddie, is up and at them. They're full of life and full of enthusiasm. We didn't have the team to play like that. And I knew that's what the Newcastle fans wanted. But we didn't have a team. So we were, I would like to think, very, very well organised, difficult to beat, difficult to play against, and had a bit of, in St Maximum, a little bit in Almiron, a little bit of magic up the top end of the pitch. I really, really enjoyed it. I can say I really enjoyed it. It became tough, of course, but I think I was the victim of the whole club at the time. Were desperate for the takeover. And, we're talking about financial fair play and all the rest of it. A club would never be in any distress under Mike Ashley. Yeah. And sometimes you have to get this balance right, that all this financial fair play is to put that clubs don't get themselves in a situation where they go bust. And unfortunately, in the lower divisions, we've seen it over the years now. Clubs like Bury and Stockport and places like that who've gone under because of, obviously, they haven't managed the finances so well. It was a great run club under Mike, and I know I'm going to get slaughtered for that, but it was. The big thing is we never had a lot of money to spend. We spent exactly what the club generated, and of course that was never going to be enough for it to be really, really successful. So I enjoyed my time there. I wish them the really, really best of luck now, and see where it takes them.
I mean, in these days, social media plays a part in everybody's life. You got battered on social media. How difficult was that to cope with? You have to have mighty broad shoulders.
When it comes personal and you have to call security and police and all the rest of it, then it does become a nonsense, doesn't it? And thankfully, I'm not on social media. I am aware of it, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But is there any good news on social media about anything or anybody? I'm not so sure. So if you are vulnerable, I do worry about people who are a little bit vulnerable and they're getting this level of abuse on social media. I do believe it was driven by social media, because the vast amount of people that I bump into or around the streets of Newcastle were great. However, this undercurrent of the social media was awful. I have to say that.
Steve, for the moment, thanks. And you're going to stay with us for another half an hour. So we shall talk more in a couple of minutes.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.